योऽन्तः प्रविश्य मम वाचमिमां प्रसुप्तां सञ्जीवयत्यखिलशक्तिधरस्वधाम्ना अन्यांश्च हस्तचरणश्रवणत्वकादीन् प्राणान्नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यं रमापतिं पूर्णगुणं मुकुन्दं व्यासं च विज्ञानसहस्रभानुं पूर्णप्रबोधं च सुतत्वदीपं क्रमाद्गुरुंश्च प्रणमामि मूर्ध्ना. Namaskara. In our previous video, we looked at the concept of Bheda, how the Vedas contain passages that speak of both difference and passages that speak of non-difference between the Jiva and Bhagavanta. We discussed a few points about how to interpret such Vedic sentences. In that video, we saw how various Madhvacharyas interpreted the sentences of the Vedas. Now in this video, let us try to understand what the other core beliefs of those Madhvacharyas were and the reasons behind those beliefs. Primarily in this video, I want to speak about Madhvacharya's doctrine of Swabhaava or Swabhaavavaada. But to understand this Swabhaavavaada and why it was introduced, we must understand the history of these other Madhvacharyas, what their beliefs were and how those beliefs originated. Therefore, let us look at a historical background of these Madhvacharya's arguments and see how it all began and how it progressed. At first, Sanatana Dharma was what was practiced in our country. It had come from ancient times, it had no beginning, it was eternal, hence the name Sanatana. And everyone followed the same Dharma. However, around 250 BC, Emperor Ashoka embraced Buddhism. After he embraced Buddhism, he promoted the Buddhist religion throughout the entire country. So then Buddhism began to grow more than Sanatana Dharma in our country. Some people of Sanatana Dharma accepted Buddhism on their own while others were forced into it. Thus, during the 950 years that followed Ashoka's rule, Buddhism became very prevalent in our country. During this time, the followers of Sanatana Dharma indeed began to diminish. These 950 years can be called a silent era for Sanatana Dharma because in that period, no great Pandits, scholars or Acharyas emerged. Because there were no such leaders to stand against the spread of Buddhism, it grew significantly in our country while Sanatana Dharma suffered. Now let us look at the famous beliefs of the Buddhist school during that time. First of all, they believed that the world is shunya or void, meaning the world is essentially not real. Actually, they said that the world that exists right now is momentary and will be destroyed every second and created the next second. Therefore, they called the world kshanika or momentary. This basically means that the world we experience is unreal. The continuity of the world is an illusion and the way that we experience this world is not real. Thus, they argued that what exists now is destroyed and the next moment it is created again, and the next moment another world gets created and the next moment another one, and so on. Therefore, this world is basically an illusion. Another core belief of the Buddhists is that the Vedas were not authoritative. They do not speak the truth. They also believe that there is no such thing as Bhagavanta and there is no such thing as Jiva. These were the beliefs of the followers of Buddhism. Note that Madhvacharya believes that Buddha was an avatara of Bhagavanta himself and he did not preach these beliefs himself. In the Buddhavatara, Bhagavanta only spoke the truth, but because it was a Moha avatara, that is an avatara meant to confuse, he spoke the truth in a way that the unworthy would misunderstand. Therefore, Madhvas say that all those unworthy people misunderstood the truth and believed it in this manner that was described here. Thus, for 950 years, Buddhism grew extensively in our country. After that, in the 7th century, a Mimamsa Pandita by the name of Kumarila Bhatta arrived. Mimamsa is one of the 6 Vedic darshanas. The Vedas can be understood from different perspectives and Mimamsa is one of them. Mimamsa interprets Vedas solely through the lens of rituals or karma. Kumarila Bhatta, a Vedic scholar from that darshana, felt that the influence of the Buddhists in our country must be curbed and Sanatana Dharma must grow again. To understand Buddhism properly, he went and learned from a Buddhist guru, concealing his identity and lying to him that he himself was a Buddhist. Once he had mastered Buddhism, he stood up to oppose those very gurus in debate. He refuted Buddhism and upheld the Vedic Dharma and defeated the Guru. After this, he began a campaign where he travelled through the entire country challenging famous Buddhist scholars in the land to debate him. He would say, "I refute Buddhism, I will defeat you and establish the Vedic Dharma, come and debate me if you have the strength." But when debating with these scholars, he would set a wager, a condition. The condition was that if you lose, you must leave the country. Thus, traveling through the entire country, he defeated significant Buddhist scholars in the land and drove them out of the country. This is how Buddhism grew in places around our country like China and Sri Lanka, while it began to diminish in India. However, while Kumarila Bhatta reduced the influence of Buddhism in our country, he did not re-establish or grow the Vedic tradition itself. Then, in the 8th century, Shankaracharya arrived. We must note the situation of the country when Shankaracharya arrived. Interest in Sanatana Dharma was beginning to grow again in India, but common people did not have the ability to understand the esoteric Vedas. Thus, most people were in a state of confusion trying to understand the Vedas. They sought a scholar who would come forward like a leader and explain the meaning of the Vedas to them. It was at this time that Shankaracharya came forward to fill the void. The situation was such that the people would believe anything that Shankaracharya would have said. Thus, Shankaracharya arrived in the 8th century and put forward his philosophy. He named his philosophy Mayavada, which later came to be known as Advaita, but the name he coined was Mayavada. Before understanding this Mayavada, we must first try to understand the influences upon him that led to the establishment of this Mayavada. We must understand the reasons for the beliefs he stated in that philosophy and under what influence he proposed those beliefs. If we look at it this way, there were primarily 3 influences. The first one is the influence of Nyaya philosophy. I mentioned earlier about a Vedic darshana named Mimamsa. Another such darshana is called Nyaya. In Nyaya, the Vedas are understood by giving more importance to logic or tarka. This Nyaya philosophy was famous at the time of Shankara, and we can see this influence of Nyaya darshana upon him. The second influence is that of the Mahavakyas in the Vedas. In the Vedas, some sentences appear a bit strange. While the whole Vedas appear to say one thing, these sentences seem to say something entirely different. Shankaracharya picked these few sentences and called them the Mahavakyas. He used these sentences as evidence to strengthen his philosophy. The third influence is the then diminishing Buddhist philosophy. Now remember these influences, we'll look at them one by one. The first influence is that of the Nyaya philosophy. As I said, Nyaya is one of the 6 Vedic darshanas that understands the Veda by giving more importance to logic or tarka. So what does this Nyaya philosophy say? It says that there are infinite souls and every soul is omnipresent or sarvagata. Why do they interpret it this way? They have a certain logic for it. A soul experiences through eyes, through mouth, through the feet. Therefore, it's not possible that the soul is just at one place. It has to be at many places. Extrapolating this logic, they decide that the soul is omnipresent and exists everywhere, but the experience is merely limited to the body, but the soul itself exists everywhere. This is the sort of convoluted logic that they use to arrive at the conclusion that the jiva is omnipresent. In this video, if the circle is the entire world, then jivas are small dots here that are occupying some parts of the world. But Nyaya says that jivas are not like this. Every soul fills the entire world. So like this. This means that every soul is spread everywhere. Shankaracharya's Mayavada is strongly influenced by this concept. Shankaracharya looked at this and thought, if every soul is omnipresent and must fill the entire world, then all souls must be overlapping one on top of the other, right? I mean, where I am, you are also there, and where you are, everyone else is also there. So all of us are on top of each other. So instead of everyone being everywhere, let us just say everyone is just one. Shankaracharya performed a thought experiment like this, and his conclusion was that in reality, there are not infinite souls. Let us discard the idea of the infinite souls mentioned in Nyaya philosophy. But what else did Nyaya say? It said that the souls are all omnipresent. Let's keep the omnipresent part. Shankaracharya thought there are not infinite omnipresent souls, but there is only one, and let us call that Brahma. Keeping this argument, Shankara searched the Vedas to see if there are any evidences where the Vedas support this argument. This is Shankaracharya's second influence, the Mahavakyas in the Vedas. As I said, while the entire Vedas seem to speak one way, some sentences appear strange and seem to say something entirely different. Shankaracharya searched for those sentences and he identified 4 or 5 sentences and called them Mahavakyas. Aham Brahmasmi. On the surface, this feels like it says, I am Brahma. Tattvamasi. After explaining everything about Brahma, It says Tattvam Asi, that is you. And it feels like it's saying you are Brahma. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. This feels like it's saying all this is Brahma, all this world is Brahma. I am Atma Brahma. This soul, this Jiva is Brahma. Having picked these sentences, Shankaracharya decided that these sentences alone speak the true meaning of the Vedas. He decided that the rest of the Vedas are not the absolute truth or Paramarthika Satya. They are just the practical truth or Vyavaharika Satya, which basically means false truth. Therefore, he concluded that the absolute truth, the Paramarthika Satya, is only what these 4 or 5 sentences say. And we must understand the Vedas using only these sentences. The previous video I made about Bheda Bheda is specifically about these sentences. Using these Mahavakyas, Shankaracharya argued that there is only one entity in this world. Brahma alone exists. There are no souls, there is no world. So if we look at Shankaracharya's thought process, first, due to the influence of Nyaya Shastra, he decided to have just one soul instead of all souls being omnipresent and overlapping. Then he looked for proofs in the Vedas and found the Mahavakyas and decided that they speak the truth while the other sentences in the Vedas do not. Now a question arises. If only one thing, Brahma, exists, then why does everything appear different from each other? Why does the world look different? Why do the souls look different from each other? To answer this, Shankaracharya used the third influence. What did I say the third influence was? The influence of Buddhism. What do they say in Buddhism? The world is shunya or void, which essentially means that the world is an illusion. Taking the same idea, he said that the world is mithya, an illusion. He said that everything we see is not real. What truly exists is the absolute truth told by the Mahavakyas, that Brahma alone exists and there is nothing else in the world. That is the truth. But due to ajnana, ignorance, it all appears to be different from each other. This is the influence that came from Buddhism. Thus, if we look at Shankaracharya's entire philosophy briefly, it looks like this. These are the things we see in the world. The souls, which all appear to be different from each other, the world, which appears as a separate entity, and Ishvara or Bhagavanta, who appears as someone different. Here we can consider Ishvara to be any god, because no god is different, right? In reality, everything is just one entity. So you can consider Vishnu or Shiva or whichever god. But the concept is that Ishvara, Jiva and Jagat or the world appear as 3 different things to us. All of that is due to Maya or ignorance. It is mithya and it is not the truth. What should be the goal of the Jiva? The goal of the Jiva should be to attain knowledge and remove this ignorance, ajnana, and to understand the truth. And what is the truth? As shown in this video, nothing in this world is real. In reality, there is only one entity. Brahma alone exists. Experiencing this truth is realization or sakshatkara. Ajnana must be destroyed and this knowledge must be obtained. After this realization and experience of the truth, we become Brahma. Actually, we are Brahma, but we think that we are different due to this ajnana. When the ajnana goes away, the awakening that I am Brahma comes to us. After that, nothing appears different to us. There is just one entity after that. This is Shankaracharya's Mayavada. Now, if we look at this, some questions can be answered very easily without any confusion. For example, what is the point of karma, the actions that we do? If we do good, will good happen? If we do bad, will bad happen? In Mayavada, there is no need for an answer to these questions because the world is mithya and the karma you do is mithya. Nothing is real. There is nothing like doing good karma gives you punya and doing bad karma gives you papa because everything is maya. So should you do specific karma? It's optional. If it helps you attain knowledge, then do it. The goal is primarily to obtain knowledge and reach realization and understand that I am Brahma. If some karma helps you do that, then do it. What about bhakti? Should you do bhakti? Well, Bhagavanta and I are not different, right? So who should I show devotion towards? Because I am Bhagavanta in reality. However, if bhakti helps you attain knowledge, then practice it. Because primarily the goal is sakshatkara through jnana or knowledge. So if it helps you, then believe that there is a different God called Ishvara and practice devotion. Eventually you will understand that I am that God. So this is what Shankaracharya says. If bhakti doesn't help you attain knowledge, then there's no point of practicing bhakti. Thus both karma and bhakti are optional because everything is mithya. And the other question is, why is there such inequality in this world? Some are born rich, some poor, some with diseases, some are born healthy. Why? For this too, Mayavada doesn't need an answer. All of this is mithya. All of this is Maya. Nothing is real. Why are you trying to analyze this fake world, this mithya world? Just try to know the truth. Therefore, they don't have to have any answers to these questions at all. The answer is just that everything is mithya. That is the answer. However, Mayavada struggles to answer some other questions. For example, regarding those Mahavakyas picked from the Vedas, if they alone speak the truth, then what do the other sentences in the Vedas say? As I said before, Shankaracharya says that they say the practical truth or Vyavaharika Satya. But the practical truth or Vyavaharika Satya just sounds like another name for a lie. So it seems like what they're trying to say is that the rest of the Vedas are all just lies, and only those statements are the truth. I've looked at this topic a bit more deeply in the other video that I mentioned on Bheda. The other question that Mayavada struggles to answer is who has Ajnana? They say that Jiva has Ajnana and the Jiva must strive to know the truth and remove this Ajnana to reach realization. But there is no such entity as the Jiva, right? Only Brahma exists in reality. It is due to Ajnana that it looks like there is a Jiva, but actually there is no Jiva, there is only Brahma. Then who must have this Ajnana? Brahma himself must have Ajnana, right? Because the entity called Jiva does not even exist in reality. So how is it possible for Brahma to have Ajnana? All the Shastras praise Brahma as Satchidananda Swarupa, free of Ajnana. How is it that Brahma itself can have Ajnana? Another extremely confusing question that Mayavada struggles with is who should we obtain Jnana from? Should we learn from Ajnanis or from Jnanis? We should learn from the Jnanis, right? But in Mayavada, those who have obtained knowledge and have become Jnanis have realized that they are Brahma. They have no sense of Guru and disciple being different. They have become Brahma and they see nothing as other. When there is no difference for them between the one who speaks and the one who is taught, to whom should they teach? They have become Brahma and they see only one entity. In such a state, they cannot inform anyone of what the truth is. So then, does that mean we must learn this Shastra from Ajnanis itself? How can Ajnanis know the truth? Many such questions arise in Mayavada that don't have a convincing answer. Therefore, in the following centuries, many arguments grew against Mayavada. Primarily, as we saw, one reason was that Shankaracharya accepted the Nyaya Shastra's belief that all souls are omnipresent. If we let go of that belief, the confusion of everyone occupying the same space and overlapping with each other does not even arise. It was for that reason that Shankaracharya argued that there should be only one Jiva, one entity, one Brahma, right? So if we discard that, there is no need to say that there is only one Brahma. So then the situation of picking Mahavakyas to support that argument also does not arise. Then the argument that the world is mithya also becomes unnecessary. But if we go with this, then the world is real. Now if the world is real, then many questions must be answered. Because Shankaracharya said the world was mithya, he didn't have to answer any of these questions about karma or bhakti or the rules of the world, the nature of the world. But the moment that we accept that the world is real, we must answer, what karma should we do? Should we practice bhakti? How should we behave? Why is there inequality in this world? What are its rules, etc.? That became the work of the acharyas who came after Shankara. So Shankaracharya came in the 8th century, and in the 11th century Ramanujacharya arrived. Ramanujacharya put forward the philosophy of Vishishtadvaita. He rejected most of the things that Shankaracharya said in Mayavada and put forward his own philosophy. Let us see what his philosophy and its beliefs are. Ramanujacharya said that the world, the Jiva and Brahma are all different. While Shankaracharya had said that everything is one, Ramanujacharya claimed them to be all different. Now there are many pramanas in the Vedas to support this. Apart from those Mahavakyas that Shankaracharya picked, all other sentences actually say that Brahma, Jiva and the world are all different. So then how must we understand the Mahavakyas? Ramanujacharya says that although the world and the Jivas are different from Bhagavanta, they are attributes or Visheshanas of Bhagavanta, meaning that they are like his body, they are his attributes. This is called Sharira Shariri Bhava. That is, the world and the Jiva are the body of Bhagavanta. They are like his Sharira, and Bhagavanta is the Shariri. He also provided some pramanas from the Veda. For example, the Vedas say, Tat Srishtva Tadevanu Pravishat. Having created the world, Bhagavanta entered into it. meaning the world is like his body and he entered into it. Thus, Ramanujacharya claimed that the whole world is Bhagavanta's body. And those Mahavakyas that Shankaracharya chose, Aham Brahmasmi, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, etc., Ramanujacharya interprets them in accordance with his theory. So, Aham Brahmasmi, which literally translates to I am Brahma, is interpreted by Ramanujacharya as I am the body of Brahma. Just as we practically use I to refer to this body, Aham Brahmasmi is also referring to Bhagavanta's body and not Bhagavanta himself. So Aham Brahmasmi should be understood as I am the body of Brahma. Similarly, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, all this world is Brahma, should be understood as all this world is the body of Brahma. Thus Ramanujacharya says that every Mahavakya should be understood as the body of Bhagavanta and not Bhagavanta himself. Finally, what should be the goal of the Jiva? Ramanujacharya says that the goal is to obtain moksha. What did Shankaracharya say? He said that moksha is reaching realization and getting the awakening that we are Brahma, that there is no other entity. Ramanujacharya, on the other hand, says that we must do sadhane and please Bhagavanta through devotion or bhakti to obtain moksha. The primary requirement for moksha is bhakti or prapatti, surrender. If needed for that devotion, you may obtain knowledge, jnana, or perform karma, but these are optional. The primary requirement is just devotion, bhakti. Only through devotion can you please Bhagavanta and obtain moksha. So what is moksha then? Shankaracharya said moksha is the realization that I am Brahma. Ramanujacharya says that moksha is breaking free from the bonds of samsara, the cycle of birth and death, and reaching a state of jnana and ananda, knowledge and bliss. In that moksha, Ramanujacharya says that everyone becomes equal. That is, all liberated souls have equal amount of jnana and ananda as Bhagavanta himself. Everyone does not become Bhagavanta like Shankaracharya claims. Everyone doesn't become one. Everyone remains different, but they all become equal. Equality but not unity. In moksha, there is no hierarchy or taratamya of any kind. Everyone is different, but everyone is equal. Thus, they become equal to Bhagavanta himself. But of course, Ramanujacharya claims that Bhagavanta has just one or two additional qualities. Apart from being the Lord of Lakshmi and the creator of the world, Lakshmi Patitva and Jagat Srishti Kartritva. These are the only two qualities that Bhagavanta has, but the liberated souls do not have. Apart from this, in all other qualities, everyone becomes equal to Bhagavanta. This is Ramanujacharya's opinion about moksha. Now, we saw that Shankaracharya said that the world was mithya, so he didn't have to answer any questions about the world. But because Ramanujacharya accepts that the world is real, he has to answer what the rules of the world are. Why is the world like this? Every jiva is in a different situation. Some are rich, some are poor, some are happy, some are sad, some are deceased, some are healthy. Why is every jiva in a different situation? Why is there inequality in this world? He must answer such questions. And what is Ramanujacharya's answer? The previous karma of every jiva is the reason for their current situation. Meaning, according to the karma done previously, that jiva is in this situation. And why did he do that previous karma? It was because of his previous situation, right? The situation dictated that he do some karma. So for example, he was poor and in order to earn wealth, he did some karma, he did some actions. As a result of that karma, today he is in a different situation in his current life. And in this life, based on his current situation, he does some additional karma. In addition to this, Ramanujacharya also says that Bhagavanta makes the jiva perform these actions and gives him the situations. That is, as an antaryami, an inner presence, or preraka, motivator, Bhagavanta makes everyone do all the karmas. As a result of the karma, he also puts them in different situations by giving them the phala of the karma. So, if you look at Ramanujacharya's answer, what is the reason for the jiva's current situation? Previous karma. And the reason for the previous karma? His previous situation. And the reason for the previous situation? The karma before that. And the reason for the karma before that? The situation before that. So if we keep going this way, the situation of the first life is the reason for everything. Because due to the situation in the first life, I did my first karma. And because of that karma, I got my next life. And so on it continued. Additionally, Bhagavanta himself is making everything happen as the preraka and antaryami of every jiva. But the question then arises, what is the reason for the situation in the first life? When Bhagavanta brought me into this samsara for the first time, I had not done any previous karma before that. At that time, how did Bhagavanta decide the situation of my first life and what karma he should make me do in that first life? Ramanujacharya answers that since there was no previous karma in the first life, Bhagavanta gives Swatantriya, freedom, to the Jiva in the first life. This is called Datta Swatantriya. Datta Swatantriya means the Swatantriya or the freedom that Bhagavanta gifts to the Jiva in the first life. So he says, conduct yourself as you wish. I have given you freedom. He only gives freedom to the Jiva in that first life. In all the other lives, as I said before, Bhagavanta himself makes the karma happen, and Bhagavanta himself gives the situations to the Jiva as a reward, phala, for those actions. So in the first life, Bhagavanta gives freedom to the Jiva, Swatantriya. So he allows the Jiva to act as he wishes, and he will not interfere at all. But according to what the Jiva does in the first life, he will give the next situations. And in the future lives, he will intervene and he will make the Jiva do karma. So this is the concept of Datta Swatantriya. So if we look at Ramanujacharya's whole philosophy briefly, Jiva, Jagat and Bhagavanta are three different entities. But the world and Jiva are like Bhagavanta's body, they are his attributes. Moksha is attained by pleasing Bhagavanta through devotion, bhakti, and breaking the bonds of samsara. In moksha, everyone remains different, but they are all equal. And to answer the question, why is the world like this? Why is there so much inequality? Ramanujacharya says that previous karma is the reason for the current situation, and the karma before that is the reason for that karma. And going backward this way, we reach the first life. Since there is no karma before the first life, Bhagavanta gives Datta Swatantriya to the Jiva and says, do whatever you want. According to the karma done in that first life, Bhagavanta determines the future situations and the future karma that he is going to make the Jiva do in the future lives. Now, in this philosophy too, there are many questions that arise without convincing answers. First, Ramanujacharya said that the world is Bhagavanta's body. But the world gets destroyed, right? Then what is the difference between Bhagavanta and the Jiva? The Jiva is also eternal and cannot be destroyed, but the Jiva's body is destroyed. Similarly, if the world is Bhagavanta's body, then Bhagavanta is eternal, but his body is destroyed. The world gets destroyed. So Bhagavanta then has Sharira Nasha, destruction of his body. But Kathopanishad says Bhagavanta is Nityo Nityanam. That means he should not have any kind of destruction like the Jiva does. If there is a destruction of the body, then it is a kind of Nasha, a destruction. Then Bhagavanta becomes just like the Jiva. So this is an argument against Ramanujacharya's philosophy. Another argument is as follows. He says that everyone becomes equal in moksha and there is no hierarchy. But then while in samsara we pray to these devatas, the devatas who are so superior to us, these devatas actually perform so much sadhana compared to us. For example, Chaturmukha Brahma performs 100 kalpas of sadhana, whereas we just do sadhana for a few lives in one kalpa. Now, if we, performing such minute sadhana compared to Chaturmukha, become equal to him in moksha, we have the same amount of jnana and ananda as him, then what was the use of him performing so much sadhana for such a long time? If we both become equals in moksha, then isn't my easy sadhana of a few births better than his long-term sadhana? What did he achieve by doing all that? And the final argument against Ramanujacharya's philosophy is related to Datta Swatantriya. The argument is that if Bhagavanta could give freedom in the first life, why didn't he give it in future lives? Why must he make the Jiva do karma in future lives? If Swatantriya, if freedom is a thing that can be given like that, he could give that freedom in every life, couldn't he? Let the Jiva do karma independently, and according to that karma, Bhagavanta can just give the results. Why must Bhagavanta make the Jiva do karma? Now, if Swatantriya is a thing that cannot be granted like that, then it makes sense that Bhagavanta must make the Jiva do karma in every life. But in case it can be granted, then why do it only in the first life? Thus, there is a fundamental question regarding whether freedom is a thing that can be granted at all. Thus, we have briefly looked at Ramanujacharya's philosophy and the problems that arise from it. Next, in the 13th century, Madhvacharya arrived. Madhvacharya put forward another philosophy called Tattvavada. Today, it is popularly called Dvaita, but the name Madhvacharya coined was actually Tattvavada. In this Tattvavada, he put forward an argument that is different from Shankaracharya's Mayavada and Ramanujacharya's Vishishtadvaita. So what does Madhvacharya's Tattvavada say? Like Ramanujacharya said, Madhvacharya agrees that Jiva, Brahma and the world are all different. Apart from the Mahavakyas, all the other sentences in the Vedas agree with this. Thus Madhvacharya said, Bhagavanta, Jivas and the world are all different. But he did not accept what Ramanujacharya claimed about the world and the jivas being Bhagavanta's attributes or his sharira. So Madhvacharya claimed that they are entities that are mutually exclusive. There is Panchabheda, five-fold difference. There is difference between each of them. And he gave many pramanas from Shastras for all of this. So then how did he explain those Mahavakyas in the Vedas that Shankaracharya picked? So Madhvacharya actually explicitly showed that the Mahavakyas can be interpreted to support difference between Bhagavanta and Jivas and not oneness. I have explained this part more deeply in the Bheda Bheda video. If you are interested, please take a look at it. So Madhvacharya said that Jiva, Jada and Bhagavanta are all different. Next, what is the goal of life? Madhvacharya accepts that, like Ramanujacharya said, the goal is to break free from samsara, please Bhagavanta and attain our true nature of Jnana and Ananda and to reach Bhagavanta. That is moksha. And how to obtain moksha? Ramanujacharya said only bhakti. But Madhvacharya says that bhakti with Jnana is needed. Meaning knowledge is not optional. And to have knowledge, you must do karma. Therefore, karma must also be done. From karma comes Jnana and from Jnana comes bhakti. And through Jnana and Bhakti, one attains moksha. Therefore, nothing is optional. Next, what is moksha? Shankaracharya said that becoming one with Bhagavanta is moksha. Ramanujacharya said everyone becomes equal in moksha. But Madhvacharya did not accept either one of them. He says in moksha, you don't become Brahma, nor do you become equal to Brahma. In moksha, there is still a hierarchy according to each one's yogyate or capacity. There is taratamya. So that is, Chaturmukha Brahma and I do not become equal in moksha. The knowledge and bliss, the jnana and ananda of Chaturmukha Brahma in moksha will be much higher than mine. And just as I serve those devatas here in samsara, I will serve them in moksha as well. But I'll do it out of joy. Moksha is actually not becoming equal to someone else. It is attaining your own true nature and your own intrinsic yogyate, capacity. Madhvacharya emphasizes this very clearly. A woman does not need to become a man to attain moksha. A person of Vaishya Varna doesn't need to become a Brahmana to attain moksha. A Grihastha doesn't need to become a sannyasi to attain moksha. Whatever your intrinsic swarupa, your intrinsic nature is, whether it's a woman or a Vaishya or a Brahmana or a sannyasi or a Grihastha, you attain moksha through that swarupa itself. You attain your own true nature. You don't become someone else. And according to your yogyate, according to your capacity, you experience jnana and ananda in moksha. Therefore, moksha is not becoming equal to Bhagavanta or becoming equal to someone else. The expression of your true swarupa is what is called mukti or moksha. And in that moksha, taratamya exists. And even there, everyone worships Bhagavanta with devotion. This is what Madhvacharya has said about moksha. Finally, Madhvacharya also accepted that the world is real, right? Then, Madhvacharya also has to answer the same question Ramanujacharya had to answer. If the world is real, then why is it like this? Why is there inequality? Rich and poor, happy and sad, why? So what was Ramanujacharya's answer? He said previous karma is the reason for your current situation. That karma is due to the karma before it, and going back all the way, the root cause becomes the situation in the first life. Since there was no karma before that, he said that Bhagavanta gave Datta Swatantrya to the Jiva in the first life. And from the second life onwards, Bhagavanta makes everything happen. Madhvacharya accepts the concept of karma here, but does not accept this Datta Swatantrya. Because as we saw earlier, if Swatantrya is a thing that can be given, why should Bhagavanta just give it in the first life? He could give it in future lives as well. Therefore, since Bhagavanta doesn't give this Swatantrya, doesn't give this freedom in the future lives, it must mean that freedom is not a thing that can be given at all. It is a special quality of Bhagavanta, his exclusive quality, a quality that only he possesses. Madhvacharya states very clearly that there are two principles in this world. The independent principle, Swatantra Tattva, and the dependent principle, Aswatantra Tattva. Bhagavanta alone is the independent principle. Everyone else, from Lakshmi Devi down to all the jivas, everyone is dependent. Everyone is part of Aswatantra Tattva. The quality of Swatantrya, independence, exists only in Bhagavanta, and he will not give it to anyone. It is his exclusive quality. Well, then the question remains, if there is no previous karma and Bhagavanta doesn't give Swatantrya to the Jiva, then how does Bhagavanta make the karma happen in the first life? To this, Madhvacharya's answer is Jiva Swabhaava. According to this Jiva Swabhaava, Bhagavanta gives the situation in the first life and makes karma happen in the first life. Not only that, Madhvacharya says that in every life, not just the first, in every single life, Bhagavanta makes the jiva do karma in accordance with the Swabhaava along with the jiva's previous karma. So now we must understand what this jiva Swabhaava is. As I said at the beginning of the video, the topic that I really wanted to discuss in this video is jiva Swabhaava. But to understand the concept of jiva Swabhaava and why it is needed, I decided to set all this groundwork. So now what is jiva Swabhaava? Jiva Swabhaava can be called the inherent nature of the jiva. It is the jiva's own internal nature. It has always been with the jiva since beginningless time, anadikala. The jiva has no beginning. It was never born. It is eternal. So since the time that the jiva existed, that is beginningless time, anadikala, the jiva Swabhaava has also been with the jiva. The jiva Swabhaava and the jiva cannot be separated. And the jiva Swabhaava was not given by Bhagavanta. Bhagavanta did not create the jiva. The jiva existed forever. And thus the jiva's nature was also with the jiva forever. Bhagavanta never changes that jiva Swabhaava. It cannot be changed at all. That jiva Swabhaava is the main reason for all the karmas that the jiva does. Now another thing that we must understand here is that it is commonly said that jiva Swabhavas are of three types: Sattvika, Rajasa and Tamasa. But in reality, jiva Swabhavas are of infinite types. The nature of every jiva is unique. All jivas are different from each other. But when we classify the jiva Swabhavas, we make three types of classifications. Those who have more qualities that are aligned with the Sattvika nature are classified as Sattvikas, while those with qualities that are more of Tamasic nature are classified as Tamasas, and those who have more qualities of Rajasic nature are classified as Rajasas. But the Swabhavas are infinite. No one jiva is like any other. Every jiva's nature is unique. Also, Bhagavanta makes the jivas do karma according to their Swabhava. Bhagavanta does not change anyone. He does not say, I will make this Tamasa jiva do Sattvika karma, or this Sattvika jiva do Tamasa karma. Bhagavanta did not give that Swabhava to the jiva, but he will always make the jiva work according to that Swabhava itself. To understand this better, there are some famous examples that we can look at. The first one is the example of Bhagavanta as the gardener. The jiva Swabhava is like a seed. Which plant the seed belongs to has already been decided. The gardener cannot change that. Bhagavanta does not change the jiva Swabhava. Then what does Bhagavanta do? Like the gardener, he plants the seed, he pours water, and he grows the plant. Whether a Tamasika plant comes out of it or Sattvika plant, that is not up to him. Whatever the seed is, the same plant will come out of it. This means whatever karma the jiva does, whether it does Sattvika karma or Tamasa karma, that is related to the jiva Swabhava, the seed. Bhagavanta does not change that. But Bhagavanta as the gardener nurtures the plant, he grows it. But whatever the seed is, the same plant will come out. It is impossible for Sattvika karma to come out of a Tamasika seed. Meaning a jiva of Tamasa Swabhava will not do Sattvika karma. Even if he does it, it might be temporary due to some external influence, but not by nature. By nature, a Tamasa jiva only does Tamasa karma. Thus, Bhagavanta, as a gardener, merely makes all the arrangements for the expression of the jiva's Swabhava. He grows the jiva and makes it reach its destination. Now let's look at another famous example. Actually, I got this example from one of Dr. Pratosh's interviews. Here, the jiva Swabhava is like an electronic appliance. Some jivas are fans, some are heaters, some are like bulbs. Different jiva Swabhavas are like different appliances. Bhagavanta is like electricity. He gives electricity to all appliances and makes them do whatever work they do. That is, in accordance with the Swabhava of that jiva, he makes them do whatever they do. He never makes them do work contrary to their nature. Like he doesn't make a heater do cooling, or he doesn't make a fan do heating. A fan is supposed to blow air, and he makes that jiva do exactly that. He does this by giving prerana, motivation, and as an inner presence, antaryami, just like electricity. Thus, as we saw in these examples, Bhagavanta makes the jiva do karma according to the jiva's Swabhava. So this is Madhvacharya's answer to the question, why is samsara like this? Why is there so much inequality? The reason for the first life is Swabhava alone, because there was no previous karma before that. But from the second life onwards, keeping the Swabhava along with the karma that you did previously, Bhagavanta determines your situation and makes you do your karma. Thus, as shown here, for the first life, Swabhava alone is the reason. But from the second life onwards, the karma of your previous births as well as the Swabhava are both the reasons. And in the background, the one who makes all this karma happen from the beginning and the one who gives the results for them is all Bhagavanta. Thus, we have briefly looked at some arguments of Madhvacharya's Tattvavada. So now we can look at how Madhvacharya addressed all the questions that arose in Vishishtadvaita. The first question was, if the world is Bhagavanta's body, then Bhagavanta's body also gets destroyed, right? To answer the question whether there is destruction of body for Bhagavanta, Madhvacharya said, the world is not Bhagavanta's body at all. It is different from Bhagavanta, and he spoke of Panchabheda. The second problem was, if everyone becomes equal in moksha, then what is the point of the extreme sadhana done by the devatas? Madhvacharya said that even in moksha, they will be in a state of higher jnana and ananda than us. He said that there will be taratamya, hierarchy in moksha, and the devatas will be higher than us. Thirdly, regarding Datta Swatantriya, the problem was, why does Bhagavanta only give the Swatantriya in the first life? Madhvacharya did not accept Datta Swatantriya at all. He said that Bhagavanta is the only Swatantra Tattva. Everyone else is Aswatantra always. Bhagavanta never gives Swatantriya to anyone. And the reason to determine the first life is not really Swatantriya, it is actually Jiva Swabhaava alone. So here we have looked into Jiva Swabhaava in this video. Finally, I must say a few things about this video itself. This video was created from a Madhva perspective, because I've primarily put forward Madhvacharya's arguments in this video and I've argued for them here. Now people of other faiths may argue against these final arguments as well. There will be counter arguments for these as well. But there is no end to argument because these are all logical arguments. If we really want to know the truth, it is not possible to do it through logic. We can only know the truth through experience. Therefore, logic is only useful to see if something seems convincing to us. But to really arrive at the truth, you must pursue it and experience it. Having said that, my personal opinion is that if you look at Madhvacharya's Tattvavada a little deeply, it generally gives you an answer that is convincing to almost every argument. With this, I will end the video here. Shri Krishnarpanamastu.